to this
It's not
computer.
us. It's just lying.
I love lying. I think lying's my best trait that I have.
I just
Welcome to the
know.
UMR podcast. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. You want to restart that?
No, I think that was really funny.
No.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Hey, I'm your host, Nathan.
Your host?
Yep, you're one of us. No
Yeah, what
others.
one of the hosts?
Yeah, do you want to introduce me then?
You?
No, just
Yeah, we have our guests, Dallas, Lancinese, and Jesse B.
Hey, regular
Yeah.
guests that are here every time.
Yeah, but welcome back to my podcast.
Okay. All right.
I love shit. Can we start over?
you love
I
shit.
this
Oh,
bit I can't continue this bit.
I liked it.
I
I
like to
I thought it
go.
was great.
I don't want to start over.
What can I do? Well, it's my podcast.
Yeah, it's your podcast and you edit.
Hey, welcome to UMR Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and with me I have my guests, Dallas Lancinese and Jesse B. So,
Guests that are
yep,
here every time
yes. These
because
are
this
my
is now Nathan's
two favorite
podcast.
guests. I'm not actually cutting it for the record. That is the whole thing from the get-go is going in. So
Good.
anyway, because I don't work. So today we're going to be talking about interviewing and the reason. Okay, when you say that I'm the person who's introducing why we're the people, what do you mean by
Do you
that?
have your document open?
I did, but then my computer said that I didn't have the resources to have it open in Zoom, so it was
Okay.
affecting my audio quality, which is why my sound went out. So I had to
Hmm.
close the
Maybe
document.
that's my problem.
It might be if you have too many things open.
Well, in any case, I can do
Also,
this part.
your
I'll
audio
close
might
my
be better
things
right now.
and do it. Okay, so here's why you should listen to us talk about interviews because, um, you know, who says we're the experts? Except we
Yeah.
have all been hired. All of us have been hired multiple times for multiple jobs. And we also hire people all the time. We are supervisors. We are in charge of selection processes.
Yeah, we're in charge of a lot of things all the time because we work in higher education. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we're overworked and underpaid and underappreciated. Let's talk
That's
about
not where
that.
I was going at
Let's
all,
talk about
actually.
that.
Also, one of us has done OPE. Dallas, you want to talk about that?
How much do you want me? I can talk about OPE, but how much do you want me to get into it? Again,
Second summary.
like how much second summary? 30. I can give you a 30. I can give you my elevator pitch of OPE. This is outside of it. This is a funny intro. OPE is dying. Okay, so now I will say how I appreciated my experience. Um, it was a lot of interviews in a small amount of time. Because it's basically a large, it's not a gymnasium, but I'm gonna go for the example and the image. It's a large gymnasium space where there's just dividers and you're back to back interviewing with different institutions. Woo! Let me tell you, my first interview, garbage. Um, was with Nathan's institution. It was a bad interview though, but that individual that interviewed me gave me great advice. And like we're going to talk about today, our experiences and our advice that we have for people going through the interview process, whether it's selecting individuals or wanting to be selected themselves for a new position.
That was beautiful. Well done.
Thanks.
I do want to say also, I have been at OPE also, but I've been on the interviewing side before.
Oh,
So I've
incredible.
been on the side of sitting in a room and then having random people walk in every 30 minutes and just having to be a fresh new person every single time.
That's how
Um,
I feel during RA hiring season.
right? It's a lot because it's I get to be basically using every single little drop of my social battery to be on my A game because unfortunately, what people don't tell you is when you're interviewing people, they're interviewing you too. And people will tell interviewees that all the time because it's to assure them that they're the people who like are looking for a place to be. But when you're interviewing, you also have to be on your A game, or else people aren't interested. And it's a little little challenging sometimes after you've done an entire day of interviews to still be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, chipper, and talk to someone and say, "Hey, this is why you should be here."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. After your 30th interview, still convinced that you love your institution and the position.
Saying the same things to different people because it's new to them, but it's not new to you. And it's like, ah, man. That's how I felt as an interviewer at OPE because I'm saying the same stuff, just rehashed because the questions have different words in them. But everything
Mhm.
that was something that was fun fact about me, something that was consistent all of my interviews was because I never truly understood at that point in my life how to do the who are you? Like explain like to give like who are you and why you want to be here kind of thing. I've never been good at that one in the past. So I would always throw in like, well, we'll get into like the specifics of like how I can do your job in other questions, but I love a good dog meme. If you check my Facebook, there's dog memes on it because there used to be. Now it's cat memes. You know, I've changed my perspective, but not a sponsor.
And that's how you would lead? Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I would say I love dogs and dog memes, and I'd post them on my Facebook. And I got hired, and because I was myself and I can do job.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
Yeah.
I do want to say, Dallas, I did talk to the person who interviewed you pretty soon after you told me that, like less than a month.
Yeah.
And the two things is one, she she didn't really remember because apparently she does that a lot
Yeah, I
of
mean,
just
yeah.
like roast people for their first interview and then gives them a lot of advice. And then two, she's like, "Oh shoot, does he hate me?" It's like, no, he really appreciated it. And she's like, "Oh, okay." Like, I was like, "Did you want to be hated, man?" Like that was super, like it was nice. I appreciated like I
Oh my word.
appreciate the honesty of it.
I like that a lot. You can go back to her and say, yeah, now I actually hate her.
Okay, I'll do that. And she'll be like, "Whoa, thank you."
Yeah, yeah. Because if that's what she was looking for, that's what I'll give. So she'll be the
Actually,
third
there's a
person I
position
hate.
open at her institution if you want.
Oh, it'd be so funny if I took her job or old job.
It's director of res life over there.
I'm not ready.
Uh, it's a
No.
smaller institution.
I only have 6 years of in my belt, under my belt. Can't
Only.
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 I mean, whatever. Okay, so question for you both. What's your best advice for interview prep before the actual interview?
For interviewing or to be interviewed.
To be.
To
Today we're
be
talking
to be
about
being interviewed. Okay.
Gotcha.
I can start. Um, I I go overboard with my prep when it comes to interviews. I really like to be as informed of the institution that I am interviewing with or the position that I'm interviewing for as possible. So whether that means like reading, rereading, taking notes on like a position description, a contract, responsibilities, whatever's available online, because not all this information is available online. Like, yeah, you just don't get it until you get hired, kind of thing. Excuse me. But I like to do a lot of just research myself and have my own notes already ready in like a booklet that I'm bringing to interviews. So if I ever wanted to refer to something in said interview, I love that. Um, Similarly, when it comes to just like broad institution, now if you're obviously doing an interview for like an internal thing, like an internal position, you already know about your institution. You already you should, I would hope. If you don't, do some research. But speaking of research, I'd love to do like the broad specific, another like the broad general things like obviously like institution name, institution size, and things like that. Little fun things. I throw in like the mascot for funsies because maybe it comes up in a conversation. It'd be cool if you knew those little things because especially if you get to like the final portion of like in an interview process for any sort of position in higher ed, it's usually an on-campus experience, and there's a lot of just random conversations that will happen maybe when you're traveling to another interview space, for example, and like having little bits of information like, oh, I know that like on average, the events that you host on campus get this much attendance because this is what's on the internet. Or your mascot is a bison and his name's Thundar. That's, you know, it might not seem like that's important information, but that can like make you rememberable when they are reviewing candidates. Like, oh, this person actually knew things about the place they're trying to work at.
I get a haircut every time. I get a haircut before every single interview. And can I explain, please, before?
Please explain, yes.
Because I'm not going to do the research. I'm not going to lie. I have the memory of a goldfish. I can't do it. Like, I can't memorize all that stuff. And you got to know what your strengths are. My strengths are not knowing lots of stuff that honestly I have no business knowing. I know things when I'm super, super interested. Honestly, employers in the future, I'm sorry. I'm I'm not terribly interested in a lot of the history of your institution. What I am interested in is the historical documentation of like what my job entails, but you're not going to give me that until I work the job. So I'm not going to pretend like I know it. So instead, I'll get a haircut, and then that haircut will make me feel good. And then once I have a haircut that makes me feel good, then I feel better for the interview. Uh, you in the back?
Yeah, thanks. Dallas Sensenese, he, him, NDSU Hall Director, fourth year.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So you said that you like to get a haircut before you interview.
Yeah.
Are you currently interviewing with the place? You got a
I'm not
haircut.
actually. I actually
Okay.
just needed a haircut.
Okay. I was just curious, just making sure.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Although it's in the works. We can talk about that later.
We're recording
Off cast.
right now. Okay, great. I will just say, from the female perspective, I feel like women, I don't recommend getting your hair cut right before interview, only because the amount of times I think it's like hit or miss whether you're gonna get a good one or a bad one. The longer your hair is, and you don't want to go with a bad haircut to an interview. So I would do it like a week before.
I will say, yeah, that's fair. I am privileged in knowing that the worst case scenario, if my hair gets cut and I don't like it, is I can just shave it. I don't know if all women feel the same proclivity to do so.
Good word.
Thank you.
Proclivity.
I have a dictionary.
Do you read it on a regular basis?
Okay.
Are you Eminem?
Okay, sorry. I've got to be this guy. Yes, I used to when I was in fourth grade. I did read my dictionary.
Boo, boo.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
I did the same thing at about the
Yeah,
same age.
because then when a teacher would ask a question and no one knows the answer because they don't know a word, I'd be like, "Oh, indubitably."
Well, actually, if you look at the
What year was your dictionary made, Jesse?
Here's the thing, I don't own one anymore.
poser.
I know. I read my parents' dictionary, and I don't know what year it was.
See, obviously you didn't read the
1780.
cover to cover because mine was made in 1942.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't read the copyright page.
I
No.
don't know why I did. I thought I was smart, and I guess I was smart enough to know it was 1940. Apparently, I can remember the year of
I
my
was gonna
fourth grade
say,
dictionary, but I don't know the mascot of the school.
Were they mass producing dictionaries during World War II?
No, it's just an old ass dictionary.
But isn't 1942 World War II time? Am I crazy?
Yeah,
was
it was
it
right the
was
tail
it
end of.
published in the U.S.? Because the U.S. was trying to like stay out of things. I think at that point
That's true.
we
Oh,
were still printing dictionaries.
and now we're trying to get into it. But that's for a different podcast.
Yeah, that's a very different podcast.
I just want to make it very clear that the opinions of this podcast are ours and ours alone, but whoever the individual who says it are the only ones who should be punished for those opinions.
My name is Dallas Lansanese. Please punish me if I have bad opinions.
You heard it here first.
And I'll take the blame for the opinions of my co-hosts. My name is Dallas Lansanese. Middle
I
name
co-sign.
Vaughn. Vaughn. Middle name.
Jesse B, I'll take responsibility for my opinions.
My name's
Also,
Nathan
interview
Dozier.
advice, interview prep. What?
Can I make my personal statement of I will let my co-hosts take the blame for my opinions.
Well, you made your statement, so
Thank you.
thank you for that. I'm not taking the blame, but you can blame Dallas.
Dallas will take them.
Punish Dallas.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyways, my interview prep advice is talk to people who help people interview for a living. Like, talk to career people. This is what I tell all my RAs. This is what I tell myself. Like, even if that's just look for career people that have degrees in career prep on the internet and watch their YouTube videos. Like, do all of that before you come in, because then you'll have the wording fresh in your head, and you'll feel confident using it if you have done that kind of prep. Often they will also do, if you're in person, you'll get a chance to do mock interviews, which can be helpful, and then you can get feedback on it. Much like Dallas's experience at OP.
I'd love to subsection into mock interviews real quick because I have opinions about mock interviews. And
Please.
and like I don't you can cut me off if you need to. But I think I've never found them useful. And maybe that's because mentally I can't get over the fact that it's not real. It's not real. And yes, like if you take it seriously, I'm putting this in air quotes for the audio listeners. Um, you can get good feedback if you take it seriously. You can, depending on who it is. I don't know. I will say another subsection of that subsection is I've never done a mock interview with what like an individual that you're saying, like a career coach, let's just say. I've only done mock interviews with like mentors, so it's even harder because we're like really close. And so like I can't just fake like, oh, I don't know you. Let me pretend you're someone else. So again, I know it's all about personal experience, but mock interviews out on a scale of 10, like a 2.75 in my opinion.
That was a very specific number.
Thank you. I am a specific guy.
I got two things. First of all, if you're going to use decimal points in a scale, you might as well just use a 100-point scale and just say 27.
0.5.
Okay? It's not what you said earlier.
I said 2.75.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's fair. I didn't hear the 7.5. Therefore,
Yeah,
that's where the miscommunication came from. So 1/4. Anyway. Nope, it's not 1/4. I did my math wrong. Anyway, my personal experience with interviews is you got to find yourself in the right headspace. For me, I'm a meditator. And if I am nervous about an interview, if I'm starting to freak out about an interview, if I'm starting to second guess an interview, and my mind's just racing, then that's just not going to be a good day, a good interview experience, or anything like that. And I think I've taken an interview before where I had a gap of, I think they said 15 minutes. And they said, "Oh yeah, do you just want to go to the next thing since we're a little early?" I was like, "Actually, no. Can I have this like space and time?" And then I found a very quiet room and just was myself for 15 minutes. Because at the end of the day, you can try to give yourself as much as you can and show who you are, but you're not acting fully yourself for an interview because that's not how you get a job unless they already know you. So take the time that you have between interviews, between spaces where you're doing those things, because that's going to get you regrounded so you know what you're doing.
Yeah, regulation during interview, especially when it's like a full day interview or something like OP where you're doing multiple interviews in a day. You gotta take those moments. And it's okay to like no one's gonna judge you for nope, I want the 15 minutes so that I can prep for the next thing. You may earn points that way, honestly.
I didn't hear Jesse.
But no, but like yes, like take the time, take the space you need. I agree. I've never liked as being an interviewer. I've never liked when the group or the team is like, "Yeah, we could just start now," because like that puts pressure on the interviewee. Like, I mean, they want to go now, so should I go now? So like, challenge that, or also if you're interviewing, don't be that person Because yes, like if the interview ends quicker for you and your schedule, then you're done with it as an interview and you can move on to the work that you're doing for that day. But that's not considerate. Sounds like you're being rude. I could swear. I won't. And that's my 2 cents. And I'm rich.
That's a good call. Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, sorry. One sound check. How's my mic doing at this point? Is it bad?
It keeps flipping back and forth. Now it's good again. For some reason, after you are talking, when someone else is talking, is when you're quiet enough that I don't know what you're saying. I don't know if that'll translate to the actual recording. I guess we'll see. Because if it is, then we might have issue.
Let me know if it does, and I'll get the webcam.
Okay.
I will say every time uh you get lower, I still hear you. You're just quiet.
Oh, that's fair.
And so
I
like you just
You
can't
also, Nathan, you were frozen for me for a good 5 minutes, so
and not
I
for
don't
me.
know.
I maybe it's because I'm recording, but I've heard everyone just quiet or loud, and I've seen everyone moving. So
I guess we can see. Yeah, when we actually like dump the file, then I'll go through and see if we can. If not, that sucks and we'll have to re-record, but it be what it be.
I mean
I
we
mean,
keep it
Dallas is recording and he hasn't lost me, so
I haven't. If we are we cutting this? Are we keeping this in? I kind of like this behind the scenes in the middle of a podcast.
Just to
I,
like, oh, we're having a lot of technical difficulties. Let's just leave a
I
whole section just to...
I can make a specific thumbnail for it, make it like grayed out a little bit, and make it like staticky, and make it look like we've had technical issues.
oh my word.
Yeah.
I like it. No, I like it.
Okay.
I love not looking perfect because I've never been. Oh no, I'm blurry. That's so ironic.
That's really good timing, man.
I did it on purpose. I do everything on purpose.
Yeah, we knew that.
My name is Dallas Vaughn Lansanese.
What's your
But
real name?
Jesse, Vaughn, like Vince Vaughn. But
Uh,
Jesse, what else you got in your mind that maybe you want our opinions on?
Yeah, so what's your advice for the actual interview?
Yeah. Did you want me to start again, Nathan, or do you want to go this time? Because I could go. I'll go. I'll go. Don't you worry. One thing that I've always told people, and I will continue to tell people until enough people tell me that no, I do this, I know this, I know this. Like stop saying this, to people. Is like, and it's very simple, but it allows your like gives you some space to like process. Is having like just like a bottle of water or some drink with you. So like when you are asked a question, because a lot of people when they are getting interviewed think when the question is asked and the asker is done asking that question, I have to start talking immediately. If I don't have an example right away, it looks bad. One, it doesn't. But two, I understand why you think that way. Because what if there's another candidate that was able to answer right away? Will the internal bias of the interviewers kick in of like, well, that person knew what they were talking about faster? I understand that. I get that. So I always say have something to drink with you. So if you need time to process, as they are wrapping up their question, or right as they do, you can grab your water bottle, you can take a sip, process what they said, and start talking after you are done. And that is a natural break rather than a now I'm just staring at you for 9 seconds because I'm not sure what to say. And I know a lot of people don't like the whole like uh response of, oh, that's a good question. I got to think on that. And then they just think. Because again, that might look like, oh, they weren't prepared for this interview, even though it shouldn't. And now this is me talking to interviewers. Get that bias out of yourself because everyone processes things differently. And so I've always hated that because I've been on search committees before, and that comes up in conversation sometimes. And it's like, bro, chill. Look at the content of the response, not how long it took us to get there. Regardless, bottle of water, I think it's really helpful for just being able to process and the flow. Also, as you're talking, your mouth will get dry, and so it will help just to be able to like actually continue. Um, Especially if you're a yapper like me, at like point A, this response to this question right now. Um, but I think another tip that I have, and I probably have a lot more that I could think of, but I'll let Nathan speak after, is to be yourself. And I know, and I'll explain. Because in an interview space, it is hard to truly be your authentic and genuine self because of the space that an interview is. Because whether or not you agree with the term or the phrase professionalism, professional, whatever, and how that is in society, an interview space is more professional than a not interview space. But if you are able to be yourself and provide just tangible experiences to the questions that are being asked, if you were meant for that position at that time, you will get an offer. If you weren't meant for that position at that time, you won't. And it's unfortunate and sad, but it wasn't the correct position for you then. So just water and be yourself, baby. And I yield my time right now. Nathan?
I yield the rest of my time. I have a follow-up on one thing you said because I forgot what I was going to say when it comes to the actual interview. Oh no, I do remember actually. Um, my advice for the actual interview in the moment is when it comes to attire, please, from the stance of someone who's interviewed, please don't wear the merch of the school you're interviewing for. I I just when I see that, I'm just like, man, you got a lot of eggs, and we're only one basket, man. We there's so many schools. Don't buy, I mean, unless you're okay, if you're a tie collector and you collect the tie of every single school you interview with, please say that. Please say that instead of, yeah, I just wanted to show Fort Hayes spirit, so I want to make sure you know that I'm here and ready to go already. When do I start? It just gives off a weird impression. I think it makes people uncomfortable. I think that's just a red flag for interviewers sometimes, unless you're just an absolutely outstanding candidate, and then that could change. But you got a lot of groundwork to do there.
Yeah, drop names.
Um, but my other advice was for the post interview, and it was following up with the not getting the job. Um, don't take the reason that you're given why you didn't get the job personally, because they're not telling you why you didn't get the job. They're telling you the reason they came up with. But like, for example, I interviewed once, I didn't get a job, and the reason I was told was because I didn't elaborate on my questions enough. All of my interviews took the full time. So I elaborate on my questions the exact amount of time that you allotted for, which means you just like the other candidate better. And you can't say that, and I know you can't because that's just not fair. That's not a fair thing to say to me. That I agree with that. But don't take that personally. Don't let that be the thing that digs at you for the rest of the month, rest of the year. I'm not going to go through the rest of my life and say, well, I guess I got to talk twice as much as I usually do because that's the only way I'm going to get a job in the future. Like that's not fair to you. And it's honestly not fair even to the feedback because that's the only thing that they could come up with. That means you were an outstanding candidate and there was just a difference in vibe, and that's fine. I yield the rest of my time.
That was great. Thank you both. Yeah, I think. Trying to think what my learning. I know I came up with the questions, but I was looking forward to your answers and didn't think about my own. Um, I think to one of your points, Nathan, sometimes being subtle and having the like school colors is okay. Uh, I'll give a counterpoint to that. And the only reason I say this is because we recently had somebody interview. So Cornell colors are purple and white. Um, showed up full hair, and we were told it wasn't on purpose. I don't know that I entirely believe that, but she got the job. Everybody was really impressed with like the combination of she looks like she belongs here and her answers like she's really excited about this place. So I think if you're really excited about a place, it's okay to incorporate some of that subtly into your
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think there's a difference between like wearing a little bit of the colors, just incorporating it, and painting your face gold. I think there's a difference between.
Agree.
Well, what if I like get like so I have like a little undercut. What if I get the emblem of like or the logo of the institution just like cut into my hair right
Too far.
here?
Too far.
Depends on the institution.
As soon as there's a logo, it's too far.
Or
Yes,
like I'll add it to
honestly,
the
if
tattoo,
if I see our logo on you, that's probably yeah. I think that's actually the 100% line.
Unless you're an alum, in which case that's fine.
That's entirely different. If it's internal, if you're an alum, completely different situations.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so in interviews, I'm trying to think of things that are helpful. I give a lot of advice to student candidates and not older candidates. Like I've been on search committees, but I mostly do students. So like my advice is pretty basic. Don't talk too much about the pay. And what you're passionate about. This would be my advice for everybody. Like if you can tie it back to something that is your um, not just why you want the job or what you're excited about for the job itself, but your passion, your mission in life. One of my favorite questions to ask interviewees is like, what is your mission in life? What makes you tick? What kind of lights your fire? Because if you can tie the job back into that, then they see that not only is this a step on your career path, but it's gonna like you're gonna give what you have and who you are to the mission of this job. And it tells interviewers, whether or not you're a good fit. Because if your own mission is going to align with the school, that's someone that you want. Um, that's someone that they want. But if it's not, then both of you should move. Um, I think that was one way that I knew Cornell was going to be a good fit because I got home from the in-person interview thing. It's like I just spent all day talking about what I'm passionate about. So I think that's a good indication. If you're talking about what you're passionate about and people are like picking up on that, like you're all vibing, that's a good indication.
Let's talk about interview blunders. Bad experiences with interviews. I think that'd be fun.
I think that's great.
Um, I can start because what a weird thing to say and to make someone else go first. That'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Um, so I've done a lot. I've interviewed at a lot of for a lot of places or for a lot of things. I've interviewed a lot of other people. I've seen blunders on both ends. I've been the blunder. I've seen other people blunder. Ooh, that's even more fun. I won't talk about that though. That's rude. On my end, one of the things it just pops my brain every once in a while that I've done myself. So I went to OPE as was expressed earlier in this podcast. If you are still listening from the beginning to now, welcome. Thanks for making it this far. We appreciate you. Comment down below if you like bologna. And so uh
I want to know who you are.
yeah, if you like bologna, fried bologna sandwiches with mayo in a hot summer day. Back
All
to what
right,
I
go
was
back
saying
to your
though.
answer
Yes,
before we
so
discuss that.
so sorry. But no, as I was doing my research for a bunch of different institute of grad positions when I was doing OPE, um there was one place in particular that I was interviewing with that I wanted to interview with that when I was doing because part of my research included reaching out to individuals at that institution, whether I knew them or they were just on the website that I felt comfortable reaching out to. Someone at this institution I was interviewing with, I had known previously, so I reached out and I got some internal information about like how the university is, maybe the department, et cetera, et cetera. And like I heard on a scale of like 1 to 10, it was maybe like a 4 out of 10 when it comes to like good bad scale. So it wasn't the greatest information, but I still wanted to interview because it was still interesting, the institution and like what they were doing. But like there was more bad than good that I was told. And this was like a genuine like, and I trusted this individual that was telling me these things. And so There was more bad than good. And so when it came to the question portion that I got to ask questions to the institution, now was I reflecting back, did I ask my question the greatest? Probably not. I was 22, however age works. I wasn't as great with words as I am now. But uh, but no, I asked a question about like so when I basically said like when I was doing research for on this institution, I was talking with people that have been a part of the university, et cetera, et cetera. Some not so great things came up in these conversations. I didn't explain what these were. I just said in general there were some not so great things that happened, or I've been told about the institution. And then I asked the people interviewing, I was like, why, from your perspective, like why would someone have like that? Like why would that perspective of your institution kind of thing from your idea? Like why do you think that could why do you think guys come off maybe like that kind of thing? Maybe. Now, again, even now I'm trying to word it. It's not coming off well. So I definitely didn't word it well in
Yeah.
that interview. But regardless, I want, because like that's a fair question to, like, if you find out things as you're researching for these interviews that aren't great, is a fair point to bring up an interview. Whether or not an interviewer likes it is their problem. Because if it brings up problems with the institution, maybe they need to fix their processes and procedures. But regardless, I brought that up and they gave me an answer. I don't remember. I don't even think I wrote it down, but because I like to write down the answers to questions when I ask the questions, but I don't even think I wrote it down. I just listened to what they told me. And then maybe like 3 hours later, my mentor from my undergrad was one of the interviewers for my undergrad's institution at OPE. We didn't travel together. They didn't have enough seats in their car, and so I had to use my own vehicle. That's a different thing. That's not an interview blunder. That's just a fun fact. Excuse me. But she came up to me afterwards when we were like taking a break when like all of my undergrad institution was just like hanging out and like chatting like how is the day going. She pulls me aside and she's like, and she said this verbatim. She said, "What are you saying in interviews?" And I said, "Oh, what do you mean? What did I say? I don't what did I do wrong? I don't know." And then she said, "You don't just ask that kind of question in an interview." And I said, ah, and because that institution like blackballed me after that interview was like, no, we're not considering this guy because of what he asked. So that was definitely a blunder for me. I don't know how much that institution talked to other institutions that messed up my chances with other places, but I got an assistantship and I got a professional job after, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Um, but I just thought that was really funny that like the after was like, you can't say those kind of things, and I'm like, bro, I don't know, man.
I'm gonna amend something you said, from opinion based, not factual based. I wouldn't ask those questions in an interview. And regardless, like, is it a fair question? Yes. Is it a fair question if you also want a job at that place? Probably not. Like, I feel like if you're there is asking informational questions, but then if you're like, hey, I heard people are roasting you, what's up with that? I feel like
Now,
that
yeah.
kind of that's gonna rub any interviewer the wrong way, regardless of where you're interviewing. Unless you're going into like PR. If you're going into PR, I think
Yeah,
that's an awesome question
that's
to
a great
ask.
question if you're going to PR.
But yeah, I feel like so for example, now that we're far enough removed, I can probably talk about this. When my institution was having issues in the halls because I think a few rooms had a substance that shouldn't be in rooms and should be cleaned from rooms before residents move in. However, they were cleaned beforehand and then got that substance because that's what happens. That's how you live in a place. Eventually you get mold. Anyway, I said it. But if someone in an interview said, I heard you have a bunch of problems with mold, what's up with that? That'd be it. Like it's just that's not what you're interviewing for. That's my problem. So I feel like that's where that probably disconnect happens. I'm not saying that you were wrong for asking that question, especially for if you were already like 4 out of 10 with the institution anyway. Honestly, if you took the assistantship, it would have to be because it's one of the only ones you were offered, you know? So if someone's asking that question, my assumption is that they're not that interested anyway anymore. So
Oh, dude, I gotta say another one. I gotta say another one at OPE because I didn't. My OPE. Fun fact about my OPE experience. It was wonderful. I had a great time. I signed up for OPE 2 weeks before OPE. If you know anything about OPE, that's not good. I was the last person to sign up. I didn't have a lot of time to research, so there's a lot of sleepless nights because I had to do a lot of research because I had 16 different interviews that I signed up for at OPE. Um, one of my interviews, another, it was later. It was because OPE, my experience there, it was I drove in Thursday. I had interviews Friday, Saturday, and sometimes institutions would schedule an additional interview with candidates they really liked on Sunday. I didn't get that far with anyone. Oopsies. Maybe because I'm abrasive, you know. But regardless, my last interview at OPE, I and I didn't mean to say it out loud. It was an internal thought, but I said it because I was 16 interviews deep at this point and I was drained. But we were in the question portion of me asking questions. And I was like in the middle of asking a question and I said, you know what? I think I got enough information. Um, and they said, what do you mean by that? And I said, I think I'm good. I think I'm good for this space. And then we just stopped the interview and we didn't talk. And I don't even I know where that place is. I'll tell you all where that institution was after. I'll tell you both the institution names for both of those blunders after this podcast. I'm not saying it during. I remember both. So
I'm
there's
sure they
that.
remember you too.
I fucking hope they do, baby. I fucking hope they do.
If someone in the middle of an interview doesn't actually I'm done here.
Good. Oh my gosh, I can't
Yeah.
even imagine.
Yeah, I call that a blunder, man. I feel like that is that even a blunder at that point? At that point, I think it's, you know
That might be
what?
self-sabotage.
Right, I don't want this job.
I didn't. After the interview, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I just said, screw it, I'm
Right.
not gonna fake it.
Well, you did the thing that I think someone would do if they applied for a job, but they only have to apply for it because of their parole. And they're like,
It was a good time. I had a great
that's really funny.
experience. I love
Wow.
Oshkosh. Yeah.
Man, I don't want to be this guy. I don't think I've blundered in an interview, really.
Yeah, I believe that about you. I blundered my whole RA interview process
Mm.
was a disaster. I almost didn't get hired, and my boss was very upfront about that with me after I did get hired.
But
Um,
I didn't get hired 3 times. Maybe let's go back to imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm in the wrong profession. Y'all haven't had blunders in your professional experience for interviews.
tell you,
And
I have.
no, you just said it as an RA, a candidate, but never as like a professional.
Because I've had one professional job. And
I
it
have-
went well, miraculously.
I appreciate and love when people say that. I find it so ridiculous because of my personal experience that like some people can just interview for one place and get it. Because I applied for my first full-time job. I applied to 92 different places. 92.
That's a lot.
I only got at the end of the day one offer for a job. I was betting bad.
Well, two things. One, yeah, of course, the last one's the one that you got the offer. That's how it works. I
You can
know, but
decline. You can decline, but yes.
that's true. Okay,
Yes.
fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, my bad. The other part too, though, is so I'm also at the institution that's my undergrad and my master's, and on it, I'm in the same department that I've been in since being an RA. And the only reason I got my RA job is because I helped someone clean up blood in glass when it wasn't my job because I was a freshman. And then they saw me do that and they're like, ah, this guy'd be a good RA. So I got that job. Then I worked with the same department for 3 years, took a little bit of a break, then came back and they didn't have grads, so they needed a grad. Then they needed a community director. I was interim, and then I got that job, which I was already doing that job. And then they needed an assistant director and failed to search. And the second time they were doing it, they said, hey, we really need someone to do this. So I'm a Nepo baby, dude. Like straight up. My dad works here. He doesn't, but
My dad's dead. Yeah, I get that.
but I'm only here because of family ties, baby. Like realistically, I don't think I've done an actual search. I've only failed. Like I've failed is a strong word. I only didn't get one job, and that's my most recent one. That's the first time I've even interviewed outside of Fort Hays.
You know what? I actually like the dichotomy of our podcast because last podcast I was like, bro, I don't even know if I fit. This podcast, I don't think y'all fit. I think I fit for this podcast, for this topic, I should
Yeah,
say. Because I've been through so many.
so many.
Dude, can I? Well, I guess before I guess take over the bus and start driving this fucking podcast.
I'll cut everything up until here, and then you
Yeah,
can just talk.
it's because I asked if y'all had blunders. Did we get through that? Did y'all talk about what you wanted to? Because I have another thing I want to talk about.
Oh my gosh.
I only had blunders that I've seen people do in
Yeah,
interviews.
and I guess we don't want to talk about that. Yeah.
No, I will, but
Oh, go for it. I'll listen.
I got two.
Yeah.
One was an RA candidate who was asked a question about diversity, and they said, "Oh, I'll just scream at them." And it's like, "What?"
Hired.
Yeah, and it's like, "No, I just yell at people when they don't agree with what I agree with."
Yeah, yeah, me
I'm
too.
like, "Oh, that's a really bad answer, man." Like, I did like, and he didn't say what he believed in. He just said he would yell at people who disagree.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
No other context. It doesn't mean that you're for or against. It doesn't matter.
I have
And
so
the other
many.
one was one time we had one of our interviewers write on a candidate file, meh candidate with no explanation.
And that goes to HR.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
um I have two that I like to talk about. I think are fun. I've had a lot more when it comes to me interviewing and seeing interviewers like mess up. We had an RA candidate. We just wrapped up RA, so technically it'd be 2 years ago now at this point, two selections ago periods. We have a question about like tell us about when you've been a role model for someone. And the answer was, "Oh, I'm not allowed to be a role model. Like my mom doesn't allow me to be a role model." And our process has like a break table in the middle of the interview kind of thing. And so at the break table, they just get to talk and chill with one of the hall directors and like just like kind of like decompress a little bit before they answer more questions. They brought up how they really like watching plane crash videos. Like that's like their thing. And so I always joke because that person comes up whenever we place RAs. We always bring that person up as like, oh, remember this person? And I always joke, yeah, I wish I hired him as a joke. And then as a professional blunder that I've seen someone in an interview do, they gave their we in our professional interview process. I won't actually spoil anything if you are thinking about applying at my institution. I'm not going to tell you what you have to do, but there's a part that you are in front of people and you say words like an interview is. And at the end of one of these parts, this individual basically said, "I feel like I'm coming off as weird. Do y'all think I'm weird?" And like, if you have to ask that, you are, and it's not going well. If you have to ask that in the interview space, I'm so sorry. And that's why you're on my list of two people I don't like. And it's not that reason, but like, there's more. But regardless, if you have to ask that, you're wrong. And I yield my
I want
time.
you to know if anyone can Venmo me $20 every interview for the rest of time, when they ask, "Do you have any questions for us?" I will ask, "Do you think I'm weird?"
No, I'm not gonna pay for that because you'll never get another job in your life.
I'll keep this one. Oh no.
Ah.
Oh no, I'm happy.
Oh gosh.
No, that was good.
Yeah. But no, sorry. I guess you're right. This is one of those where there's the dichotomy of you don't feel imposter syndrome. We don't feel the blunder in interviews, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think I just learned after my RA process because I was really bad. I was a really bad candidate on paper. Um,
And you got hired. And I was a good candidate in my eyes, and I didn't get hired for 3 years.
well, I mean, I knew I was an okay candidate in real life, but on paper, I looked really bad because I submitted a resume that was a joke, literally.
Nice, good.
Mhm.
oh, you like made a joke resume?
Well, yeah. Uh-huh.
Do you still have it?
I want to see it.
I'll send it to you later if I can
Cool.
find it.
Deal.
And then I was on study abroad when I had my interview, and we had like barely any internet. So I had to move I think 3 different spots in the house we were staying at, and was frozen for most of it. And then they were like,
And the
"Why'd you
mic didn't
submit
work?
the resume
Yeah.
that you submitted?" And so I'm trying to explain that while also like freezing.
Yeah.
And so they weren't going to hire me until I had worked with one of the RDs before, like I'd served in a different capacity. And she was like, I don't understand what happened in that process, but you'll like her. Just, I promise you'll like her. And they were like, okay.
Dude, I hate it. Good job. Good for you though. Good for you.
Dog, that's what I'm telling you. Nepotism works better than anything else.
It doesn't have to be nepotism. Like,
I'm
that's
using
networking.
nepotism as an umbrella term. I'm not saying I'm not saying actual nepotism here.
So like in summary though, interviews, a lot of things you should prep, you should prepare, and you should plan because they're important for your future success. And that's been the UMR in summary podcast. We have a lot of things that we're doing, and I'm very excited. We got topics on the way that I don't know if we're supposed to just tell. I don't know who you want to talk about future topics that we're thinking about, or we want to make it a surprise.
Well, if we change them.
That's right. We are very prepared, but also we go by the seat of our pants, baby, and that's how this podcast works, and that's higher education. So, in summary, catch us next time on YouTube and maybe on different platforms coming soon.
Maybe.
Comment down below if you like fried bologna sandwiches.